Okay, so now it's time for our panellists. But before we do that, I just want to acknowledge the TAFE Music Business course for putting this on, which is myself included, as well as a few of the other people here. There's too many to name, but you know who you are. We're probably wearing one of these. Now, to thrive. To thrive is to prosper, be fortunate or successful, to grow or develop vigorously and flourish. And it has a little sentence here, the children thrived in the country. So with that context of thrive, we now invite our panellists to the stage. We have Joseph Calderazzo, Damien Cunningham. So Joseph Calderazzo is the co-founder of CC Entertainment. Damien Cunningham is from the Live Music Office. We have Michael Wheatley, co-founder of Nut and Butter Studio. And Lockie Doley, he's our professional musician. And Caroline McKnight, who's from APRA AMCOS. Laura Murdoch from Music New South Wales. And Therese McKee, who's a publicist. So if you guys come on stage, you can sit anywhere you like. And we're going to open up the floor straight away. Well, actually, we'll get them to just to introduce themselves, what they're all about, let their elevator pitch. Yeah. So if you guys just like to, whoever and whenever, just like to introduce yourself and say a little bit about what you do and who you are and what we could come to you for, especially if you're like AMCOS or APRA, because not everybody here may know that. So, yeah, take it away.
Sure. Well, my name's Lockie Doley, a pro musician, apparently. I like to say I'm an original artist, recording, touring artist, and I play Hammond organ. That's my feature instrument, I suppose, and what people would know me for. Secondly, singing, and yeah, I've had a good run of the last seven or 8 years, just really hammering the original thing, and yeah, it's been a good ride.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Wheatley. I do a myriad of things within music and entertainment, but I'm here tonight as a representative of my recording studio, Nut and Butter Studios, where we focus mainly on original music and original artists from around the world, in particular Marrickville. But yeah, so yeah, that's what I'm kind of here to talk about, or be here to answer questions about, is recording your music and being true to it.
Right. I'm Therese McKee. I am, I'm thinking about this all the way in here. I am the founder of Key 2 Artist Promotions, and just recently I have teed up with Ali Cook in a partnership. I'm a publicist. I'm also an associate producer with Kiwi Country TV, which is a new TV show that we have going out through the world for Kiwi, or I'm sorry about this, but it's New Zealand singers, but that may very well evolve. I'm also Ali Cook, she is an international performer. I'm her Australian PA, PR, and agent. And that, besides that, I'm also a mother.
Round of applause for the mothers. And new fathers.
Yes.
I'm a very proud new father. I can talk about it for about an hour and a half. No. I'm Damien Cunningham. I am the Industry Liaison Consultant. That's my official title for the National Live Music Office. Like most people that work in music, I do a myriad of things as well. I'm a promoter, I've been a booking agent, festival booker. What else do I do? I'm a band manager, many other things. And I think that's probably a thing that we'll see as a theme through this evening for those people who are looking at both the business side, the artistic side, and where they can find their footing, is that most people will become all things to all people. But yeah, that's my side of things.
Hi, My name's Laura. I'm with Music New South Wales. Does anyone here know about Music New South Wales? Hands up. Well, there's a few hands, but there's quite a lot of no hands. So Music New South Wales, we're the peak body for contemporary music and industry in New South Wales. And basically, we just look for sustainability in creativity and financial support for musicians. But I guess, how do we do that? And we do that through lots of panels, and such as this, workshops, and then seminars. We've got Women in Electronic Music as part of Vivid Showcase coming up very soon. And we've also got master classes during the day for that as well. And we also do grants too. So there's a few different ways that we can help. But we're kind of facilitators. So if you've got questions, things you need to find out about, we can generally put you in touch with the right people to speak to if we can't give you the right advice. And I should probably pass you on, because we pass you on to APRA AMCOS quite a lot.
Hi, I'm Caroline. I am from APRA AMCOS. So we are the Copyright Collection Society for Australia and New Zealand, really. People who are songwriters and composers that live in Australia and New Zealand, and any of our people that have moved overseas. You generally, what you do, if you write songs, you become a member of APRA. The reason you do that is because we collect royalties for you, so we will pay you. An easy way to look at it is every time, you hear the idea of every time a song's played on the radio, the songwriter earns some money. We're the organisation that does that. So we have agreements with other societies all around the world. So it means that when your songs are played here or overseas, as a member of APRA, we will collect money for you and pay you. We pay you for live performances as well, which is probably the most important thing for most people starting out or at any point in their career, actually, to know about. So happy to chat. We're the place to kind of go to as well when you don't know where else to go. We'll at least point you in the right direction.
Hello, I'm Joseph Calderazzo, and I'm a full-time musician. And I also promote and put together big tribute shows. By big, I mean shows that will play like at the Enmore Theatre or the State Theatre or big theatres around Australia. And I guess I'm probably here to talk about the business side of putting on big shows.
Okay, awesome. So is anyone in the audience have a particular question that they would like to ask the panel? And I'll come over to you. Yes, okay. Let me find my way here. Okay, here we go.
Hi, thanks guys. B and I are in a band, and we made a pact tonight to ask a question each. So the first question that I've got is around recording. So we're in a process at the moment trying to select which songs out of our portfolio to choose to record, and then once we have recorded it, how do we take that to market? Or what's the best method? I'm sure that there are different methods, but yeah.
Why did everybody look at me?
I can help you with the choosing to record songs. I can't help you at all with marketing or how to sell songs whatsoever. I'm sure there's other people that know how to do that better than me. But as far as the recording process, because what you're going to be doing when you do this is you're taking a snapshot of a very important time in your life and a very important part of you as an artist. Pick the songs that mean the most to you, the ones that really get your skin tingling, the ones that make you resonate, the ones that make you feel like I'm alive right now. Pick those songs and then stay true to them, and hopefully that you can sell them as well. I don't know, but I think that bit, whether you sell them or not, when you look back at these songs that you recorded, you'll feel like you did something good, like you did something positive and forward for yourself and for everyone around you. Someone want to tell them how to sell the music?
I'll talk a little bit about both, I think. I've been lucky enough in one of the bands that I manage were in their former life had a lot of international success and kind of done the big thing overseas and played CMJ in New York and done a fair amount of sort of what was perceivable by the public as popularity. A number of years later, 4 of the members of the band came back together and recorded a record. And I said to them, when I started to manage them or looked towards kind of helping them somewhere, you know, what do you really want out of this? And the answer was to write music together. And I said, what else do you want out of it? And they said, it'd be really nice to get a vinyl record. And I said, that it? That's kind of not easy to achieve, but the moral of the story is they loved writing music together, they loved recording it together, they loved the process of playing it live. So I think to echo your point, if you're honest with it and the material you love is there, then you can't really go wrong, as long as it connects with an audience. I think the worst thing you can do is then try and go, what are our popular songs? What is cutting through? What is going to hit Triple J, FBA like this or whatever, and then pursue that. I think if you stay honest and stay true to what you want, then when you're going to put it out, your marketing, phase 2, is going to be really honest as well, because you're selling it from the heart. And you're going to sell it live. Live is what sells stuff nowadays. You know, you can argue whatever promotion and whatever social media you've got, they're collateral around something. But it comes from the stage performances. It comes on how people see the look on your face. And, you know, if you look like somebody who's writing something to be popular, it's never going to convince anybody. So the marketing comes stage to stage to stage after that of live performance. So my advice would be, know the songs you want to record by playing them live constantly. You know, I'm getting out there and learning them and gigging and gigging and gigging and seeing what connects and how you connect and shaping that sound. I'm not a performing musician. I'm sure Lockie has our...
Yeah, I can definitely add to that. I did my first solo album was in 2011, and I've been very lucky over my career to play with some incredible people. And they've all influenced me in different ways, and I've enjoyed playing with them immensely. But because they influenced me so much, I ended up writing all these songs in these different kind of styles, because I really wanted to do a little bit of that, and I loved what they did in that, and I thought that was fantastic. Maybe I can include some of that kind of vibe in what I was writing. And I did a whole album, and basically, I finished the album. I'm proud of the album. And but when I went to go and tour it, I realised basically as soon as we did the first gig that I hated playing every single one of those songs live. It was amazing. It was really like, wow, this is not who I am. This is something else that maybe I would like to be, or I've thought about wanting to be, but it wasn't actually me. And I instantly went home and I thought, what is my thing? What do I do best, and what do I enjoy doing the most? And I kind of just took that whole mentality and started pouring that and just channeling everything through that. And then I instantly wrote pretty much the whole of the next album during the middle of that tour. By the end of that tour, half the set was just scrapped, and I just picked covers, and I did all of the new songs that I'd written. I didn't even worry about the songs on the album, and that was the best thing I could have done.
Okay, well, I'm going to have my 2 bobs worth now. I'm a publicist, and my main job is to get music out for people to hear it. And I've seen some artists who have a product, and it is a product, and it's under their bed. And the reason it's under their bed is because they spend a lot of money on the production, they spend a lot of money on putting their song together, and they weren't willing to go the next step, which is a really important step that you have to go, and that is to put money into and effort into getting your song out. So you can go and you can spend all the money in the world, and you can have a box or boxes, a whole truckload of music, but unless you actually get out there in one way or another, whether you pay someone or you don't pay someone, you're going to have that stay under your bed. And I enjoy getting people's music and taking it out there, and I have had a wonderful time this year in particular, because I have had the pleasure of working with one of the top publicists in New Zealand, and I've been learning a lot from her. And I have a lot of my clients who are now on the charts around Australia. And a couple of weeks ago, we were rejoicing because we had number 1, 2 and 3 on the chart at the same time, and 2 or 3 others down the chart. And the mantra that I use in my business is, our success is your success. So if you're being successful, I'm loving every bit of it because it means that we're being successful. So as far as getting your music out there, you need to have an image. Some people cut their image down by putting really terrible videos out on YouTube, or they allow to have videos that people have done, really crummy ones that they put up, and they just leave them there because they think, oh yes, well I'm on there, I'm famous, I've got this dreadful YouTube video up. I think you're best to have it pulled down, only put really good stuff up. Good photos. You don't know who's going to take that video, you don't know where it's going to end up, you don't know where that photo is going to go. I'm forever getting photos of people and having to use them for press kits. One of the jobs that I do is I spend a lot of time talking to people in radio, on media, and the first thing that they want is samples of your music. If it's anything that's visual, they want photos, they want a video, they want to see what you do before they'll have anything to do with you. So that's a hint that I have. You need to look at how are you going to market yourself, what are you going to do to get yourself out there once that you do have your songs that you're really proud of.
How many people are in your band? 5. Have you got an ABN? No. Cool. That's good. That's pretty good. I think laying really good foundations as well before you kind of start taking stuff out is really important. So understand you're with APRA, understand your splits for the songwriting, understand, you know, who does what, get a band agreement going. Even just doing those basic foundation things is a really great starting point. We've got some packs that you can download off of our website, musicnewsouthwales.com, that kind of just give you a bit of an overview of like really basic legal bits and pieces. And then that means when you do start taking your music out, and if people do start buying it and it does start doing well, then everybody knows where everybody stands as well. So that's also an important part of the piece too, I think. It's not necessarily the most exciting part, getting ABNs and getting bank accounts and things, but it's actually pretty important to do that. So that would be my suggestion.
Just to add a point to what Laura's saying, is that the music might be new to you, and you might be unbelievably excited about it, but you decide the day it's new to the public. So it's not, there shouldn't be a rush to get it out, and as Laura's saying, you've got to get, coin a phrase, get all your ducks in a row. Get good videos, get good bios written, a bio is moderately worth now, but like get your presence sorted, do your searches, look at what Teresa's saying about finding what your internet presence is. If it's something that you think doesn't reflect well for you, it's gone. You can cease and desist notices, you can remove things, but it's all building to the day that you say that record is new. The band I was talking about recorded this record a year ago. 3 of them live overseas. We're not going to release the record until next year, and it'll be new material when we decide it's new material. So you have it, but you get one chance really at starting that process. So make sure that you do have your legal side there. Make sure you do have your interband agreements, what your royalty splits are. Well, I keep thinking that's time up.
I do. I do too.
All right, pizza's ready. But you get the foundations of all these things. Like when not to harp on, but when I was my first company I started when I lived in England. Very short story about it was through the Prince's Trust, and we were appointed a lawyer, senior lawyer from a big firm in the city, and the most wise thing he ever said to me is that you start any new relationship with writing the divorce. So you lay out what could go wrong at the offset, And actually, it's really good advice. So, particularly with band agreements, particularly with management contracts, publicist agreements, booking agents, talk about the things. Talk about these sunset clauses and things like reference lots of terms that could take a long time to explain, but they're really, really important because today everything's good, tomorrow might not be. But once you have all those things in place, it will actually bring you much closer together. There's a lot more, no misunderstandings. Everybody knows where they are, so that you can agree as an act to do what you feel comfortable with your creation, your art, your music, and you all know where you stand. So put those things around, and then when you know it's time to go, there are a myriad of things. If you can't do it yourself, if you don't know good publicity, you don't know pitching to radio, you don't know how to bring a social media presence there, you don't know how to do this, there are people that are there, and it will probably cost you some money if you're not going to be able to do it. But it's the art that you've created. It's got ultimate value to you. So think about when you're going to do it, put the plan together, and then be very malleable within it on a timeline. You might think, we're going to drop this single, 4 weeks later it's going to be on radio, 6 weeks later we're going to be touring, then we're going to go to Melbourne and we're going to play. It may or may not work like that, but constantly revisit it and constantly think about how to do things slightly differently or what is comfortable with yourselves. But
I was just going to say too, don't you think that what's important as well is putting aside the time to have those actual band meetings? Instead of just going, oh, we'll have a jam and we'll have a little chat at the end when everyone just wants to go and have a beer, you really should take the time to sit down and take very seriously your planning and doing all of this stuff that everybody's talking about that is kind of, it's planning, it's administration, and it's also kind of big picture thinking, but really it's not about sitting down. Writing music and playing music together should sort of sit a little bit separately to that. And I think as well, you see a lot of bands where there's only one person trying to drive it and everybody else is just kind of along for the ride. So you really need to try to get everybody together and try to get that working, particularly if you're a self-managed band. If you don't have a manager doing it for you, having those serious conversations is a really important thing. I do feel a little bit like a band psychologist sometimes working at APRA. So we have a lot of these conversations with bands and you can hear and feel the frustration. And I also know it from having so many friends who are in bands, and I think it's that frustration of not having everyone on board together, and that is really important. Make sure you're all on the same page.
Yeah, I'd actually like to add to what you were saying about the timing of putting your music out. And I know that a lot of people, when they've written their music, they've got their album, they're so proud of it, they just want it to be out to everyone. And you need to put one song out at a time, basically. I've only just been talking to, being a psychologist as well, I've only just been talking to one of my clients who was a new client, and he already had one song out, which was doing okay, but he wanted to promote that. So I had to sort of weigh that up. Will it be worthwhile? Is it cost effective for him to do that? Shouldn't I promote this song further? It's doing well, but it could go further. And I had to look at the song and say, I think it's a hit, and it hasn't gone to a hit. It needs to go there. So yes, we will promote that one. But over the top of it, he's just putting another song out. So we had to have a bit of a chat to him about, you really should leave 4 months, 6 months in between your songs to give it time to work them. You need to work those songs up. You need to have time to go out to radio, out to media, to get around, bounce around, to have sales and whatnot. You have to have a look at how many singles you might take off your album. What are the best songs that you're going to take? When are you going to put them out? Which would be the first one to kick off that's going to make you noticed in the industry? Are you going to finish with a bang? What are the songs that are the ones that people will want to hear? It might be your favourite one that would be the worst one to put out. So you have to have a look at that, the marketing, the viability of that song. I've only just been through that last week with one of my clients where she had a song, she put a song out, it was okay. It did actually quite well without even having a video or anything. It had nothing to go with it, and it sort of went halfway up the charts. Probably could have done better if it had something visual. So you don't always have to have something visual, but it does help It actually does. People like to see something. I decided that with this fellow, the client, who had 2 songs, I thought, all right, we're going to ride them like 2 waves. 2 waves coming in. The first wave introduces him, and the next wave is going to come through and over the top, and that's what it's been doing, and it's actually superseding the other one right now, but they're both still in the charts. So it's all about being smart marketing. You are a product. You have products, and you need to look at, that's why we've got music business. We have to look at marketing your product, otherwise it stays where it stays, nowhere. So the general rule of thumb that we have anyway is you look at a new song about every 6 months, work them. I've got a client who's, it's just 2 years since she's put out her album, and she's had 4 #1 hits from that album and has just worked them. And there's still another one sitting there ready to go. So you need to give them time. As much as you want everyone to hear them, people will buy your album and they'll play them, but a lot of people won't ever buy your album. They'll only hear the single on the radio, and they might buy that single, So if you give it the right push, they might do that. So anyway, that's my 2, Bob.
So are you talking about, with song by song, are you talking about doing the whole album or just picking the 2 singles from the album?
Just picking the ones out that you think are going to really do it for you. There might be more than what you think.
It's a tricky thing, trying to work out what songs you think are the best or the most, or the ones that are going to resonate the most with people. Just the nature of being an artist and a musician, you get extremely close to whatever you're doing, and sometimes your whole world can get quite distorted. And so I think any chance you get where you can put those songs out to an audience, preferably not your friends or your family, is a good thing to try and get, I guess, a different perspective on what might be a good choice to put out a single or to lead the album with, or something like that. It's something to think about anyway.
Okay, so do we have another question? Yes?
Thank you. I've kind of got 2 questions, really. If I've just recorded an album in New York, and I've just done a soft release to try and get out there, but one thing is, I was told you'll never get it played on radio if you don't have a distribution or big record company behind you. So question 1 is, how do you get independent releases that aren't backed by even small record companies on the radio? And number 2, you've spoken about live work, but I've been working in Sydney. Well, I've been in London for 30 years, but when I started working in Sydney in '78, there was gigs for days, and you could make a living as a musician in '78 and up to 82, 83. And since then, the gigs have just been decimated. What are you doing and what leverage have you got to either support the venues so they can support the musicians, or to apply pressure on government to relax some of the laws so that the cultural currency, which is music and art, can come through and speak for the people? Because that's not happening at the moment. You know, I'm being offered the same money that I was offered in 1978, and that's not going to pay any rent these days.
I think that could be a question for me, possibly.
Maybe.
Yeah, pass to me. I'll explain a little bit. For those that don't know the work that the National Live Music Office does, or the Live Music Office, we were brought about back in 2013 by the federal government, funded by APRA AMCOS and the Australia Council, to advocate for all types of live music, basically, but primarily venue-based live music, because both from all 3 tiers of government, from a local government authority, a state-based and a federal base, we were seeing that there was a real appetite in government to see that there was a change in the rhetoric of what was happening for performance, and how we could look at changing and building back the, what people, say from the 70s and the 80s, and this sort of move towards very large amounts of, every pub has a gig, every venue has amazing attendance, people are living and breathing live music, which is a viable goal. But I think what we have seen in probably the recent sort of 15 years is a real devolving in the audience and the competitive of audience need. We see it across the statistics where, I mean, primarily, like, for example, in New South Wales, one of the things that happened where we saw sport coming into pubs, pokies coming into pubs, which was, a component of it, but also the fact where entertainment became expensive, or perceivably expensive. So it was easier for bars and clubs to actually put big screens in, still play the game. It competed on 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock at nights with the same time where bands were playing. The pressures of economy, the pressures of what were happening with finance in those days, there was trouble in business. So yes, it's not the perfect scenario, but there were greater factors in it. We're seeing clubs close, we're seeing that. It was big competition. Now there's big competition with Netflix, with Stan, with theatre, with sporting events. We're in a much bigger marketplace now where the dollar figure to see an artist is the equivalent to see a big show, the same to see a big sporting team, the same to sort of go to big restaurants or all those things. So what are we doing about it? We're changing incrementally laws, policy ability to cut red tape so that venues like Lazy Bones, Lazy Bones were a component of one of the activations we ran last year for a certain component, but we're trying to you've got to think historically, the things that sit prohibitively for live music sit across very complex law, building code, noise abatement, EPNA, what was, competitive with agent of change. There are a lot of footprints that live music affects. So the resistance to that, it's a reset within the marketplace. So for us, we campaign very strongly at all three tiers of government. We do a lot of activations to actually try and bring about more live music. We try and do really big wins to get the federal government to look at changing. And if you look at what both the Liberals, Labor and the Greens have supported in the previous election, they know that it's a big platform, but we actually have to value it. So to come back around to that idea, is it 1972 again? No, it's 2017. It's a very, very different marketplace. Do people not go to live music? Statistically, you can still see that live music is very, very high. More people go to see live music than they do sport in Australia. It's a fact. The dollar figure that comes through when we analyse the APRA returns, when the live performance returns, when we look at that, the market is still there. Do we have a confidence issue? I would say that we absolutely do, that we believe that there's issues with live music and that people aren't attending, and I can guarantee that they definitely are. Do we have some resets in the recent years with pressures towards the normal sort of movement of live music? Yes, we certainly do, but they are being examined, and if you look at any legal or any governmental change, it takes time. But I've seen some quite responsive changes even over the past 6 months to relaxation of licensing laws, to permissions and licensing being given to venues to go much later because they have live music. You look at the Oxford Arts Factory, you look at Brighton Up Bar, you look at, there's a myriad that where the government have seen the need to sustain live music. So they've index related it to licensing to say that if this is happening, then we'll honour it and we'll actually support that side of things. So there is a lot of things happening. There's a lot of changes that have been there, and we lobby quite strongly, well, unbelievably strongly across the country for it. So I hope that kind of answers your question. Is it sustainable for an artist nowadays? I think there's more challenges, but I think certainly a lot of the artists I work with have sustained livings.
It's about adapting. It's about adapting. I don't think there's a lack of gigs out there. Yeah. I think it's just a case of tailoring yourself toward the gigs that are there. Yeah. They definitely don't pay anywhere near. I make a third per gig of what I did, say, 10 years ago, but it's tailoring, and depends, if you love to, it's kind of, we wanted it like Melbourne, and we've got that now. which means there's plenty of gigs, but you won't make much money. You just have to do a lot of gigs. And you can be original as well. There's a lot more room for original music now.
There's a huge appetite now for original music. It's more primarily live music now than your cover bands or your traditional side. But, you know, who would have known if we looked 5 years ago and say, where's your revenue diversity going to come from? Are you going to be selling, you know, records? Are you going to be charting? Are you going to be doing those things? People would have gone, no, that's definitely where we're focusing now. People wouldn't have been looking about streaming. People wouldn't have been looking about secondary ticket resales. The model is ever evolving, like most businesses now. It's hugely competitive. And, you know, that is the biggest influence, I think, rather than are we just not seeing the gigs happening.
There's just one thing I wanted to say, just throwing something different in. When I've been organising gigs for artists, the one thing that I have found is that, particularly in Sydney, there's so much variety and so many choices that sometimes people just go, I don't know what I want to do tonight, and just stay home. And they also don't like to commit until the last minute. I don't know if you found that. And it's very hard to organise a gig, and I can see you all nodding your heads. It's really hard to organise a gig when you've put a lot of effort in and no one's committing and you're just going, there's no one coming.
Yeah. I'll actually say, I spoke with the venue owner about 4 months ago down in Victoria, and I said, what's the biggest problem you're facing? Is it, you know, legislation? Is it red tape? Is it issues of getting bands there, ticket prices? What is it? And he said, no, my biggest opposition now is big screen TVs from Harvey Norman and Dan Murphy's, because everybody can just stay at home in their man caves and just watch sport. He said, that's the biggest challenge that I have to getting people into the venue now. And that's really honest. He owns a number of premises, and he said it's easier for people to stay at home. And he said, so we have to really change the way we think about, change the dynamic, look at the competition in the market that we're in. People will never stop loving live music. It's just in everybody's blood.
Yeah.
It evolves, though. We see changes. We've seen it in the festival world. We've seen it in the live, seen it in the venues. They come and go.
Whoa.
I think what needs to happen from the bodies like yourselves is they have to look at why are venues closing? How can we support venue owners so they can keep their venue open and then provide opportunities for all these musicians to play? We will do the gigs, but the gigs are closing. I mean, I'm telling you now, I've been around a long time, and you say there's lots of gigs around. There's no evidence that there's a lot of gigs around. There's some gigs around, but as your gentleman here, tribute bands, Ian Moss was playing across on one side of the road, and a cultural tribute band had 3 times the numbers on the other side of the road. You know, now this is part of what's happening. The culture has to be redirected back to live original music as art, and it has to be supported by bodies like yourselves. To answer that question, I think that support is sitting there. I sit on one of the projects, the Good Music Neighbours, and it's a Victorian-based support system for venues to do soundproofing, to improve the physical structure there. And the first round that we had last year, we granted over $250,000 to venues to sustain them. Same, you know, another example of that here in Sydney, where we had the venue that is in back of Forest Lodge, the Harold Park Hotel, when that went through the issues of a new resident that complained. That very quickly was resolved by having great representation from the Australian Hotels Association, the licensee, and the City of Sydney sat down and solved that problem within half an hour. And now venues are it is about navigating, it's about changing, but there are phenomenal amounts of resources going in. I think Victoria is over 3.6 million gone into supporting venues for their state. So it is happening, but as I said before, it's about analysis of what the needs are. When the needs are recognised, like the agent of change, that is the principle that's being looked at now in Queensland, it's been looked at in South Australia, it's being looked at overseas, both in London and in Canada, to Well, you're the primary purpose. You were there first, so that insulates you from being closed down because you breach these things. So there is a lot of the work going towards what you're saying. We hope it moves quicker, and we hope that it does respond more to the gigs that are happening. But as a promoter, I also know that, you know, the bands that we tour, we get gigs, you know, and we get those shows, and there's no lack of opportunity there. So, yes, would we like it to be better? Yes, we would. But I think we are on the upward trajectory now.
Can I just say as well, I think what is really admirable is the work that the Live Music Office does. It's quite amazing the work that such a small team of people are actually doing for this space, and it's Australia-wide, so it's not just Sydney, it's all states and territories in Australia. And I would definitely suggest, if you are interested in this, which obviously everybody is, have a look at the work that the Live Music Office does, because there's a lot more that I think everybody could do to educate ourselves about what's happening in that space, and really talking about it with people like yourselves who make music, people who are putting on gigs and festivals and events and things like that. There's so much to learn, and there's a lot of amazing resources available, and I think that it's all about doing the work ourselves as well, and actually looking into what bodies like the Live Music Office does, because it is quite amazing.
Thank you.
No problem.
I was going to address the radio question as well. How to get on the radio? Well, main commercial radio, I wouldn't have a clue about getting on mainstream radio unless I was signed to a major. That thought just doesn't even enter my world, getting on commercial radio. But I've got to say, radio, you know, forever I suppose it's been the holy grail or something like that. But this day and age, it's a totally different world, and radio is just one medium that's out there. There is social media, and some people think it's the greatest thing, some people think it's a joke. But there's social media, there's podcasts, there's all sorts of little digital radio stations. They all have their tiny little audience. Well, some of them have great big audiences, but they've all got their little share, and you can't deny them. And most of these people are people running these, say, community radio programs or podcasts, or various channels, or even blogs and things like that. Generally, they're kind of quite approachable, and they're usually music enthusiasts, and they're quite happy to hear your music, and if they like it, they'll be more than happy to play it and support you in any way they can. That's one of the biggest things that I've done over the years, is just try and nurture great relationships with all those people that I can find, and yeah, sure, you might think, oh well, it's not, you know, it's not getting played to millions of people, but it's, you know, it's that little piece. Me personally, I'm all about the kind of slow and steady build, and rather than just getting hitting it for 6 and going straight up. But there's lots of mediums that can't be denied, and just people, you know, just like you and I, who are behind them, who are generally, you can, if you do a little bit of research, you can probably find them, who's behind each program, and you might be able to find them on Twitter or even just their email somewhere. They'll probably have a contact on their website or something like that. But if you're willing to put in the work and that research and just put in the hours, I mean, I spend every day just going as hard as I can, trying to move that needle a little bit further. And that's a really good thing to think about, I think, is just don't think just about mainstream media. Don't just think about radio, and don't think about radio just in Australia either. There's radio stations all around the world, and music enthusiasts everywhere. So I think mainstream radio, I've got no idea. It'd be nice, yes, but don't forget the little guys.
Yeah, it depends what a really quick tip there is. Has anybody heard of AMRAP? Yeah, Community Broadcast Association. They are phenomenal. Look them up. You can pitch their music to them. They will supply their music over 200 community broadcast radio stations across Australia. I think it's 228, I think. I can never remember the number. If you're touring live and you're trying to get radio play, look at the on the Live Music Office website. There's the National Live Music Map that lists every community broadcast radio in the country with their direct contacts. You actually look and say, oh, we're going to be touring in Indooroopilly, where's the nearest radio station? We're 3 months out. Send our music to that place, get a story, maybe get an interview, send it to the media, get some story going there. Quick one on commercial radio. I think commercial radio has slightly changed its focus recently. Last 6 months, it's been a lot more Australian music focus. It's still nowhere near the tariffs that it should be, and we should all be heavily advocating for a much higher tariff of Australian written and produced music being played there. That's my lobbying statement. But secondary to that, we are seeing bands like Hey Geronimo, Shepherd, Flume, crossing over. Amy Shark's now crossed over to like Nova, and they're actually being led, because the pressures in commercial radio now are much greater to see what is being successful in the marketplace. So I mean, they haven't gone to Violent Soho yet, but he's hoping. But at some point, they're seeing the viability of Australian produced music, whereas not just having 5 rotations per hour of, you know, some pop song. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Filling their quota with classic Australian hits.
Yeah. Not playing Australian music between 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning when limited listenership is there. But they are more amenable to it now. It doesn't mean to say that you shouldn't pitch towards them, you know. That song that Shepherd put out there, it was pitched towards them, they hooked into it, and it went global. And so don't resist it, but it is much, much, much harder. Looking at people like Triple R, Triple J, FBI, just to name 3, do often have open pitching sessions. Be there, make sure your music's recorded, pitch it to them, put it over. You never know what's going to happen.
Yes, I do it all the time. I spend a lot of time contacting radio people. It's one of the things that I do around the world. And I do build relationships. I make sure that I do spend the time and get the relationships going with those radio people. And one of the things that I found was when I was looking at the commercial side, I felt quite despondent, actually, because I was talking to one of the guys and he said, oh, look, I wouldn't be bothered. We only change 1 song a month. So if you're wondering why you hear the same music going round and round and round, that's why. Because they only have a very limited space to be able to put a new song in.
Does anyone listen to that radio station?
No, probably not. Maybe if they want to go to sleep or something. But yeah, community radio is a different story. You've got a lot of people out there in community radio who are anything from retirees who haven't the faintest idea to people who are passionate about what they do, absolutely passionate, and are willing to go the extra mile for you. I've met a lot of those people. And if you can tap into those, you will have your music played. And make sure, I've done community radio myself. I had my own show. I've stopped doing it now. And I'm looking at possibly doing a syndicated show myself. But I know it's a really good thing if you thank them if they play your music. Just say thank you, but also thank them on Facebook. Go make the effort to go and do that. Anyone who does anything for you, thank them. Get that relationship going. I really liked hearing you say that. It's all about relationships, and you never know. You just think of any relationships you have with anyone. If you're very appreciative to them, they'll do anything for you. And you'll get your music played and played and played and played. And that's what's happening with my music. I call my music the music of my clients. So, yeah.
I think if you're willing to go the extra mile with those people too, that little extra 1%, it really goes a long way. Like I handwrite little notes on individual CDs. If I'm sending them CDs, I'll already on, everyone's got GarageBand or something, some sort of audio recorder. I'll go and pre-record radio IDs for them and email them straight away so they don't have to ask for them, you know, something like, this is Lockney Dolly and you're listening to such and such radio station, just so they've got it. And it's amazing the response you'll get when you send them something like that they just don't expect.
Yeah. A lot of the radio presenters love to have an ID because they can put that straight in front of your song And if you do send IDs to them, because I have people sending them to me, put an ID, do generic IDs where you just say, "Hi, my name is such and such, and you are playing my new song," because then that could be played for the whole album, or they love it if you name them. You're listening to blah blah, and they're really fantastic, and they'll use them all the time. So yeah, if you send music, send an ID with it if you can. Don't think that you're a bad person, and that just reminds me of something else. I remember when I first started going along to gigs, I felt really embarrassed. I love taking photos. I feel funny being on this side. Whenever I went to a gig, I'd take photos all the time, and I was talking to one of the artists, and I said, "Look, I feel really embarrassed. You know, when I first started out, I took a couple of photos, and then I felt like a stalker." And I just said to them, "Look, I only took a couple of photos, and that I felt embarrassed." And they said, "No, don't do that." And I said, "Why?" And they said, "Because we can't take photos of ourselves. And the only way that you're going to get photos is if you've got people, fans or interested people who are going to take nice photos of you and you performing, and you need to be able to project yourself out there. You've got to have photos, you've got to have reviews, you've got to have all these things to promote yourself. It's really nice to have, this person has got this blog, said this about me, or this about my song, or whatever. And when you write your bio, they're the sort of things that go in there. There's sort of a nice photo, something that someone important said, or someone said in a blog that my song was all about this or all about that, and you think, "Oh, I didn't know that." Their interpretation of your song, it could be really something really good that you can pitch to the next person, because you're forever pitching your songs to someone. Someone's going to take my song on, or I need to get into a venue, and that little thing is going to get the edge over someone else. So that's something that maybe you can have a look at too. How are you selling yourself? If you're selling yourself, have a look at, is my presentation professional? Have I got a professional Facebook? Does it look good? Are my photos good? Do I have anything that's worth, having an edge over someone else? So that's something else that maybe you can consider.
Good little thing with reviews. I remember a friend of mine told me a long time ago when I was just starting to do my solo thing, something that they'd done quite a lot is when they write their bio, and they kind of have certain lines in their bio that kind of almost sound like quotes. And often if you send that to magazines and things like that, quite often the journalists are just totally slack asses, and they'll just copy, paste straight into the article, and then you can go, "Right, such and such is the greatest thing since whatever," and then put the magazine down next to it. Little tip. I would never do that though.
Awesome. Therese, you mentioned something ID. For me, that wasn't obvious. When you say ID, what did you mean by that?
Oh, okay. An ID is basically to identify yourself. Basically, when you're on radio, or you send in, basically, this is me. This is my song. This is me. Hi, I'm Therese McKee, and this is my song.
As in, they play that.
As
in, like, "Hi, I'm Therese, and this is my new song."
Yeah, it's
Boom
like it's a little recording.
And you're listening to such and such radio station.
It's
You've got to get that one in there.
Little recording that you make just of that, and the radio presenters play it before your song, or they might just play it. "Hi, this is so and so, and you are listening to Triple R or to whatever else you listen to." And they just proudly put it on. They just think, I've interviewed this person. And so
It's like when Lockie steals quotes from his bio.
I don't steal them, I write them.
Yeah, well, these things happen all the time. I have to write press releases all the time, and you have to look at people's bios and analyse their bios and work out what are you going to put into this press release to make it sound really important. You're important. I'm having to do a press release for you about your new song, and like you can't write a whole page about the song, so it has to have a bit about you, about maybe what you've done, your achievements and your links and all that sort of thing. The links being, I don't know, you've got links to Facebook, you've got links to YouTube, you've got links to all of your different social media and whatnot.
That's actually, I got a question regarding that. With bios now, I think it might have been you before just saying, oh, they're a little irrelevant. Do you feel like maybe they are now that we've got, you know, basically I find it just as effective to send them to a website, which, you know, will obviously have some kind of a bio thing, and then, you know, you've got, or a lot of people tend to want to just deal with a Facebook page and pilfer pictures and the like from there.
I was going to say, I think bios are not irrelevant, but flowery, really dramatic, over-descriptive, this is the best song since Stairway to Heaven. You know, it's that kind of bio I think is irrelevant nowadays. I think it's, and you effectively have two bios. You have the bio that Lockie's talking about, which is a real pitch, it's immediate, it's savvy, it conjures up something. And then you have a separate pitch. You have the reality pitch, the bio that is, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is why we're doing this. This is a short, this is like one paragraph, 6 lines, and it tells somebody in a real snap way of this is a presentation of who we are. It's the quick elevator pitch of that is real and is very honest. And what I would advise people to do is have their public profiles, have their socials, whatever it is, but then have a hidden digital one-pager that has name of the band, true contacts, mobile that works, email that works, short descriptive bio that is accurate and isn't trying to pitch and sell something you're not, video of live, if you have a video of a pre-record, if you're lucky enough to have that, have 300 dpi, couple of photos that are selling the image of what you are or selling what your content with being, links to your music, not links that then take you somewhere else, embed them, playable there, so you can say that's one track, that's the next track, possibly have a live track that's been well recorded in there as well, and then 3 quotes from people that you trust. You know, Carl Sanderland said I was the best thing. No, Carl Sanderland hates me. Yeah. No, or you know, Richard Kingsmill said this was the best thing on Triple J on Earth that I've heard. You know, and then later, you know, Peter Noble said we love them at Blues Fairs, would have them back. You know, all you're doing is building a real honest picture that is, it's transparent, but you're giving confidence. I mean, for me, when I was a festival booker, I would get nearly 3,000 pictures to play just under 200 spots. You want something that goes, I like this is honest, I can play the music and look at what they look like, and that is just a starting point to then look and find your own research onto people. But then, like most people in the industry, you have 4 or 5 trusted people, and you send it to them and go, I really like this, what do you reckon? And they can be anybody around the world. The 5 people that you are in, you trust, and you just go, I like this, I think I'm gonna back this, I'm gonna go with it. But then you spend your time researching, and that's where we've talked about before, crap videos, crap photographs, crap reviews, go through, get rid of it all, even if it's got 10,000 views and you go, I'm really popular, get rid of that. Your one-pager is really, really important, and it's not public-facing.
On a sort of little further down the ladder level, not with the big festivals, I actually was a venue consultant. I didn't mention this, but I was a venue consultant for some pretty big sort of pubs and bars around Sydney for about 10 years. And I got swamped weekly with bios and proposals for gigs and whatnot, and bands and stuff. And I can be honest with you, I don't think I read further than the first 2 lines of any bio ever sent to me. And if I saw a live clip, within 30 seconds I knew exactly where I wanted to put that band, if I was going to put them anywhere at all. Yeah. So I think succinct.
But if the content's all there, you can press play, listen to the music, well then what are you going to do? You're going to read the bio.
Mind you, yeah.
You know, you're going to read it for that, but it's this small, and then you go, I like that song, and I look a little bit at the live, or a little at what they've sent me, and it is just, all you're doing is giving confidence to somebody to go that next step. As you say, don't attach MP3s to emails, don't attach high-res things. You know, if you're getting 500 emails a day and you're trying to filter through stuff, it's impossible. So it's about how you present yourself. It's like any form of business. You present yourself well, you present yourself as organised, and you're going to go, if I contract this person to play, 1, they're going to show up, 2, they're going to send me an invoice, 3, I'm going to be able to pay it, and they're going to do media. So it's like you feel they're really organised. It's about how you showcase yourself in a very busy market, to be honest.
I think you have to, respect the people's time as well. Like you say, you're getting swamped with so many pictures and stuff like that. I think definitely the live video, the sooner you can get yourself a good quality live video, an honest one, exactly of what you are that really represents the band, and you can, if you can do a whole gig, it doesn't have to just be one song. You can splice it up into certain little sections and try and do like a sample of the band in a minute or 2 minutes or whatever you think is enough to get the real feel and the excitement and the, I guess, the emotion of the band as well. That's something to think about too. Sometimes that's good, but sometimes it might be better just to go with a song as well. But definitely live video, it's the honest truth. It's right there. That's what you're getting, and you can't deny it. And if they enjoy that, then like you say, they're going to go through and read the rest of the bio. And just another thing with the bio, I think once you have started doing gigs and having certain accomplishments, I don't think it hurts to have really easy to see, almost like bullet points of certain things that you're really proud of, just to put them there, because that's more proof that you're a professional band. You're not just mucking around. You're doing this, for real, and you've seen a little bit of success, and I think that goes a long way too.
Yeah, I think that if you consider, I was just sitting here thinking, what would I do? If I was the person looking, I'd be considering, I've only got a little bit of time. I want something very concise, and I know when I do applications for festivals, as you were talking about, festivals will often say to you, we want you to do a bio in 150 words.
Yeah, that's a great
or
way to
300 words, that max. That's what you've got. So I'm forever with my artists, forever going, oh God, I've got to do 150 words for them now, or 300 now, and I just get them and just put them in a file. So if you do anything like that, just save it, and just save it as my bio, 150 words, my bio, 300 words, my bio, my full bio, and you will need a variety of them for different reasons.
I think the first festival application you ever fill out is one of the most awful experiences of your entire life. The second one is like, oh, that's so easy. Because if you save it all, it's all there, ready to go. Everything you write about yourself, save it. All your photos, all of that, save it.
Yeah.
And keep it somewhere organised.
And you can't be too precious either. One of the most soul-destroying things that I ever did, I'll share with you, was my former first major career was as a teacher. And then I studied interior design, interior architecture, and we had to do some bios for interior design. And my entire 20 years of teaching came down to I taught from this date to this date. I had so much trouble putting that down, I really did. I so did, because before, when I had to apply for other jobs, it was like this massive thing, all the accomplishments that I'd had as a teacher, being an executive and all sorts of things like that. And to come down to taught from here to here, you need to be really concise and just go, what is important? What are these people going to want to see? They don't care about the fact that you've got all these other things. They just want to see the facts, and bullet points, great. You think about yourself reading them. You can very quickly run down bullet points, but if you've got a flowery thing that goes on forever and ever, you'll probably read a little bit and just go, oh, don't know if I want to read the rest of this. So yeah, just keep those things in mind.
So great. Are you guys getting a lot from these conversations? Yeah? So we've got 20 minutes left. So who's busting to ask another question? And thanks so much, guys. It's been really great. Thank you so much.
And we've got 4 other band members. That
Yes. Okay, we've got one here. Okay.
Hi there. With music streaming and platforms like Spotify, how relevant is it as musicians and as artists? Because I know when people get an album, for instance, they'll buy a CD, they get to listen to a lot of songs in a sequence, but with things like Spotify, you can hit the shuffle button, you can pick whatever particular track you want to listen to, and I think sometimes a lot of the context of music gets lost because people aren't listening to whole albums anymore. What is your opinion about something like Spotify, just as an example, and how best can we support artists when there are so many people who subscribe to a platform such as that, or iTunes?
Can I just say one thing? Pay to listen to Spotify would be a good start.
Yes.
I think that it would be very nice. We all use streaming services now. It's a great thing. I know now everyone listens and consumes music in a different way. They're listening to streaming services is great. Don't listen to it for free, because actually there is money to be earned at the end of the day. It also opens up, we're exposed to so much new music through streaming services. I think it's a wonderful thing. I think personally the way that I listen to music now is that I agree that a lot of people don't listen to albums. But what I tend to do is I listen to a lot of new music through streaming, and then when I like it, I buy it on vinyl. And I think that you hear more and more these kinds of conversations taking place about, people going back to listening to albums. There's a lot to happen in this space. It's changing constantly, but I just do think that it's really important that everybody is not necessarily running out buying CDs every week anymore, but we are all listening to streaming services. And it is really important that we all support that service. It's not free. There is money to be earned at the end of it, and we're hearing so many bands from these streaming services. Just make sure you pay for that streaming service.
Caroline, can I ask a question that might be on the lips of some other people here with regards to Spotify? I believe they don't pay any royalties.
No,
as opposed to, say, like with YouTube, you guys track that, I know that, I see that little statement there. iTunes even, I believe they...
Yeah, so iTunes is quite easy for us to... it's quite easy to earn money. It's very direct. The money will come straight to you as the songwriter or composer through iTunes. It'll go via an aggregator and it'll come to you. YouTube, very, very difficult to earn royalties. As we all know, the amount of content available on YouTube, the amount of content being uploaded every minute of the day on YouTube is inconceivable. So in order for a copyright collection society like APRA to collect royalties and distribute it back to the songwriters and composers, it's nigh on impossible for us to track everything that's being played. So unfortunately what does happen with YouTube, we have to kind of skim off the top played musical works on YouTube, and that's the money that kind of will go straight back to the songwriters and composers. So YouTube royalties can be quite difficult. Again, this is a changing environment. It's constantly changing. So for an organisation like APRA AMCOS to keep up with this sort of stuff, we have to continually be on top of what's happening, and it is an ever-changing environment. Spotify are great. They're actually very good. We have a really good relationship with Spotify. They pay license fees to us, and we can pay directly. So as soon as you get a stream on Spotify, there is money being collected for you. It's just that it's very small. So
and that's aside, just so that people understand this as well, because I know I have a lot of clients in my studio, and they don't really understand a lot about this. That's aside to the 0.007 cents that they pay you for the actual listen. Is that correct?
So
what you might get via your aggregator as opposed to on an APRA statement, yeah?
So what you'll get through your APRA statement will be, as the songwriter, I think it's 0.02 cents per stream.
That's even better than selling it.
This is why too. I think me kind of getting on my bandwagon about paying for streaming services, it's because I think particularly in this territory where we're getting better, we've been pretty terrible at picking up learning to pay for our streaming services. The reason I say that is because so a society like APRA AMCOS, we have to get our money from somewhere. We're not funded by, we're not government funded, anything like that. We get our money from the people who use the music. So Spotify, for example, pay us license fees. They pay us license fees based on the people who are paying them. So that's where we get our money, and we pay it back to those songwriters and composers. So it's very interesting to see the way that that's starting to change. That's streaming, the dollar amount or the cent amount per stream is going up. It is going up. As we all start to pay more for those streaming services, that amount that we can pay back to songwriters is gradually going up. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I just think I'm going to be a little bit of a hippie here, but I think it's really important that if we want people to pay us money for our music, we need to be prepared to do the same thing. Don't go and rip it off SoundCloud or whatever with the little website link that does the thing and makes it free. Go and actually just pay. I pay $11 a month to Spotify, and it's awesome. Yeah. So much music.
No
and
ads.
then I will go and buy something. I do similar to what you do, and I will go and buy something if I really like it.
Yeah. With Spotify, I did a little survey to my my Facebook fans a few months ago. Just I've got 35,000 Facebook fans, so there's a bit of a community to really source from, which I use all the time, by the way. I ask them things all the time. And one of the things I asked them was, how did they actually discover me? How did they find out about me? And I got an incredible response from it, and a really surprising amount of people said Spotify. I came up on the discovery thing, and the amount of people that said they did that and then they bought my CD off Bandcamp, or ended up just going to YouTube from that and then and researching all my stuff was pretty amazing. That really kind of floored me, and that changed my whole view on Spotify. So I think, and also being a customer of Spotify, now I've been getting into it a little bit more, the amount of discoveries that I've found on Spotify, because I guess they, like everything these days, everyone's tracking every single thing you do on the internet. So they learn, and they start to recognise certain things that you might like, and they're pretty good at it. I've got to say, I've found a couple of really cool things, and to see the way that actually works. I love the idea of this stuff making the good music come to the top. The cream rises to the top. I feel like things like Spotify and YouTube and Facebook, they're almost leveling the playing field.
We're becoming our own radio stations.
So
good.
I'm kind of excited about it in a way.
That was one of the pitches for Guevara, who were one of the early streaming things. They actually started your own radio station.
Yes, I remember.
Before they unfortunately went out of business, but because they were primarily Indian based, so they had a lot of the Bollywood stars curating their own radio stations. So anybody could do it. You'd say Friday night between 9 and 11, this is the songs I'll be playing, and you could actually interact with the audiences. But let me ask the question of everybody out there. Put your hand up if you actually subscribe to a streaming service, any of them at the moment. Ooh, what's that? Like
meaning paid subscription?
Yeah. Like a premium service of any of the for the streaming services. So what, like maybe 25%? So I think that answers the question of how relevant something is. I mean, for me, there's that question of, like, we had sheet music, pianolas, we had going through to 8 tracks and cassettes and laser discs and into CDs. It's just the next progression. It's how we educate ourselves into the use of it and how we monetize it for ourselves. I mean, I think primarily before we would tour live to promote our record so we could sell our record to make money through the majors and try and get some of the non-recoupables back. But nowadays you actually have many, many shops, faces that are out there to sell your identity, to pitch your music, to then try and snag somebody in to come to your Bandcamp, come to your Music Glue site, to come to your whatever account you're selling through. They'll purchase music from you. But then again, it's another driver. If you look in now Spotify with Songkick, it's telling you when you're going to play live somewhere. Somebody's looking at that, they drop in, they go, I really like that song. I'm going to go see Lockie's playing on Friday night at you know, with something you can see it. And now the way the public, in my impression, work now, we are more researchers, we're more delvers into music. We want to find out who produced that record, who was on it, who played, you know. Is Lockie playing on the, Jimmy Barnes tour this year, and, doing that stuff. And people are ravenous for stuff. So now we've started that. There's more interaction. There's, sites now that list. There's a site coming up now that's going to be launched soon, which will show you the information that you used to have on the back of an LP record. Who recorded it, where it was recorded, what session players, and then you can link through those and say, well, look, you did play on Jimmy's record. You played in the studio? I know you played. But then, so for instance, you click on Longy and then you'll find out everything else he's played on and his own live material. So it's, you're going down the rabbit hole, but it's all about music, and you're finding out it's how you monetize that, how you keep the engagement going. I think we as artists now, well, you as artists now, us as people in the music industry and the business side, there's never been a status where we own more of the control over our own IP than it is now. We got the power.
Great. Okay. There was somebody up here. Did that question get answered? Oh, it was you. You moved. Okay.
This question's directed primarily at Joseph. A very famous musician told me that you could be the best musician in the world, but if you don't network with other people in the industry, you'll be in your room crying alone. Can you expand on that for the benefit of the audience, please, Joseph?
Did I say that? I didn't say that, did I?
Do you need a name?
Well, networking's important, I guess.
So is crying in your room alone.
Yeah, so exactly, yeah. It's important in any business to network, I would imagine. But yeah, it is in music. I don't remember saying that, but I'm sure I've said lots of things. If that's what you're saying. Well, going to other people's shows, I mean, that's a supportive thing, and I do that as much as I can. But a lot of the reason for that is just to be supportive. It's like, there's no point in sitting home saying, go to live gigs, you should go out, and if you don't do it yourself. So, and a lot of musicians don't. They probably don't have time because they're too busy. I get pretty busy, but yeah, I still try to make time because I think it's important. And well, as far as networking, well, yeah, I guess if you don't go out to see other musicians, you don't really know what's going on, because you can learn a lot from seeing other bands, and you can see what they're doing. You can learn what not to do as well. It's not just about, seeing great players. You can see players that maybe aren't, or bands that aren't that great. You can learn a lot from that as well. So, does that kind of answer your question?
There's more to the other part of the networking about connecting with, like you raised before, radio stations, community radio stations, in having a good relationship with those people. One-on-one, you can meet them at festivals and shows.
Well, yeah, I guess you could maybe not call it networking. You could just call it actually getting involved. And it's because the industry itself is just made up with lots and lots of different people that are doing different things that they're all really passionate about. And so, if you go out to shows and you pay to go and see a band, and then you watch the support that they have as well as the headline act, and you buy a drink, you're supporting the venue, you're supporting the band, and you're supporting the support. And then you're there, you can start talking to people that are in the audience. You'll probably find that people from the community radio are there as well. People from FBI go to loads of shows around Sydney, and you can actually start making a network. And if you start building your own network, that's when you can actually start to, get the contacts with the PR like you were talking about before, just kind of making those connections with people, so that when you kind of send them your music, they've actually met you when you've been out at an event. Go to festivals, same thing. But yeah, get involved as much as possible, and that way you'll actually see a lot more happening.
Particularly aligning with other bands who are doing, a similar thing to you, or something that you think might work with you. You don't have to sound the same, but I think that's such an important thing too. So many people are obviously struggling to find gigs, not sure where to go and play. If there's a local band that you like, find out where they play, find out what they do, find out, who they know, and follow them, try to stalk them.
Yeah, or or get
love
together and hire a hall or something. Yeah, yeah. Make your shows. If you're not, that's something that I've got some experience in. Is if you feel like there's no gigs, just go and make them. You hire places and sell the tickets. You'll make more money doing that than you will knocking on a publican's door and saying, "Can I have 20% of your shit bar deal, please?" Trust me.
Yeah, or knocking on a publican's door and saying, "Please give me an opportunity."
Yes.
Create your own opportunity. Why should he give you an opportunity?
No, go to him with
really,
a business
why?
plan. Say, here's my marketing plan. I expect to sell these amount of... What's your capacity of your venue? Work that out. Maybe do some deal, like let's make a special drink for the night. And, you know, there's all sorts of things. You can actually create all of this yourself. When I used to run venues, people would come to me. It's the people that came to me with those ideas. They're the ones that I went, oh, yeah, let's make this happen. These people want to actually create something. You know, with a venue that didn't have live music, because I ran venues that didn't have live music. Sometimes as a consultant, I had to be very blatant and go, look, guys, I don't think you should spend any money on bands right now. As much as I love them and as many amazing bands as I could put in here, your business will fail in 6 months if we have bands every weekend and do a jukebox. But then someone comes along to me, a band, with a great idea. Here's this idea I've got as a jam thing and the thing with the thing, and I've got these people involved, and we're going to talk about it on the radio, blah, 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 and we'll sell some tickets. You don't have to spend a cent, just open the doors. And all of a sudden, we've got something that becomes a 2-year monthly residency or whatever. These things can happen, and you can actually make them happen yourself if you want to actually get out. I mean, I know half of you are doing business, and that's a really good thing. That's hang on. I think that's a really important side of it, is to see it as a business. Wake up every day, and this is my job. I am my own job. You know, I'm going to get on the computer. I'm going to find some bloggers to talk about my new record or whatever, or I haven't got gigs. I'm going to go and check. I'm going to look at a list of venues in Sydney and see which one suits me and make it happen.
Seek out opportunities.
There are definitely no rules these days, especially now. You know, everything that we say here is great, but if it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do anything that we say. It's a great, exciting, wild kind of west out there, I reckon. And if you've got a good idea or something that is just out there, and just do it. It's not going to cost you, well, it's probably not going to cost you too much. But if I think it's worth a shot, and who knows, you might break into something new. That's what I reckon anyway.
I was just going to say too, I think what's really important is about obviously being informed and being really educated about what's going on in your scene, but also there's a lot of money out there that is there for you to have if you apply. So maybe try to start writing grant applications. They're not the most fun things in the world, but talk to people who do it and give it a go. The first few that you do, you probably will fail, but don't be deterred by it. I don't think that anyone has ever gotten a grant the first time they've applied, and if they have, I take my hat off to you. It can be quite difficult. Some of them actually aren't that hard. Some of them are very hard. Just get into the habit of it. It's like writing a job application. There's a lot of money out there. There's places like Music New South Wales that offer grants, touring grants, things like that. Australia Council. There's a lot of places that there's opportunities and money sitting there waiting, and it's the people who don't apply and who don't realise that there's money out there, obviously, that aren't going to get it. So you can get money for things. I remember talking to a manager years ago, and she said when she first started realising that she could apply for grants, she got a bit crazy, and by the end of the tour she had money. She got a grant for the water for the tour. I think she just managed to she went, okay, I can get money for all these different things. I think she started to realise that there's actually money out there to be taken. So take it really seriously, and I do think things like start with Music New South Wales and Australia Council. They're two really important things to look into.
Just to add on to that, we actually will be launching a bunch of grants later this year. So if you sign up or just check out our Facebook page, we'll be announcing when they come out, and you can see if they apply. There'll be a touring grant and a bunch of event development grants as well, which are helping the venues actually put things on for people to perform at. But I actually noticed the other day that Create New South Wales have also opened one of their grants up. So normally it just applies to arts or artists, but it's actually expanded now to musicians as well. So that's a touring grant in regional New South Wales that you should just jump on Create New South Wales website and check that out and just start applying, because yeah, there is money out there.
Awesome. Well, that has come to the end of our panel. So why don't we give it up for, we've got Lockie at the end there, Michael, there's Therese, Laura, Caroline, Damien and Joseph. So thanks so much for your time and energy.